Welcome to How We Grow, an essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business with advice and insights from the best in the biz, with your host, Lynell Gordon.
Welcome to How We Grow, the Vacation Rental Show. I'm Lynell Gordon, your host. We are here in Rome at St. Peter's Basilica, and I'm so excited to speak with Steve Frellick. He is the CEO of Yonder Vacations. They're in North Carolina in a mountainous location. It's gorgeous there. It's one of my favorite places because that's where my husband proposed to me. Welcome, Steve. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Lynell. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to the conversation.
So let's talk a little bit about your background. How long have you been with Yonder, and did you start it? Did you found it?
Yes, I got into vacation rentals with my wife in 2007 as just an investment opportunity. I was a custom home builder, and we were just interested in diversifying things, and we had heard about it, didn't know anything about it, but decided it was something we'd be interested in. Very long story short, in 2011, after the crash and my construction business going off the edge of a cliff, like many did, we got into vacation rentals in a dedicated manner. And I did found Yonder Luxury Vacation Rentals in 2011, and we've been doing that full time ever since.
Wow. So you're very successful at what you do. You're well known in the area. I've actually been to your office before. Tell me a little bit about your number one tip to people who are trying to grow a vacation rental company. What's the number one piece of advice that you would give to someone looking to grow?
I guess the number one thing would simply to be passionate, believe in what you're doing, and commit to it. This isn't rocket science. Vacation rentals by owner got the name because that's what they are. And I think essentially you can trace them, if you want, back beyond the foundings of the United States, probably over in Europe, and the idea of people traveling and staying at someone else's home. That certainly was a thing. And then inns and bed and breakfast, if you will, came after that. So it's a pretty down-to-earth, basic business. And so nothing special about it, but you need to be passionate. And if you are, I think anybody can build a business. Now, there's a lot more pieces that go into it, but if you don't have the passion, I don't think you can go from there.
What's the biggest challenge that you face as a vacation rental narrative?
Are you asking that from the perspective of today or from the perspective of founding a business?
Right now, today, what's your biggest challenge right now?
The biggest challenge for myself and our company right now is the tone and makeup, if you will, of both the travelers and the investors post-COVID. And that's a big generalization and somewhat not fair, but there is a much larger segment now of both guests and investors who are looking for a quick fix. They are very myopic in their views. They're not looking at it from a holistic perspective. And so it creates a very transactional relationship. And that bothers me because Yonder was founded, we run our business while transactional because there is money that is exchanged. It's a very relational business.
You know your homeowners?
Absolutely. I meet all of my homeowners at some point or another.
Okay.
COVID changed that a little in that, Zoom and some other things because folks might not be comfortable. That's obviously changing and thankfully going back to where you can shake hands, hug people, and create those relationships because that is how we started. It's how we've grown. It's how we will continue to grow, to be very relational. And that, to me, that's the key. And the whole change in our economy, and it's not just vacation rentals. You see it everywhere, and you hear of restaurants complaining about guests just being mean-spirited and rude, and everything's just so immediately transactional and all about them. That's what troubles us right now.
How do you combat that? Let's talk about it in two ways. On an owner level, so where the owners come in and they're just investors, they're just like, here's the money, just show me the spreadsheet, show me the money. How are you combating that?
Well, and to clarify, I don't have a problem if an owner comes in and says that, says very specifically, this is transactional. We're investing, do your job and report to us. That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. That's transparent. That's honest. That's what we want. The problem is when folks come in, they don't define what they want. They think they want something, yet they want something else, but won't communicate that. What we're doing to combat that is just doubling down on who we are. And so in the early process of interviewing and vetting potential owners, we're learning to be more intentional about getting them to say specifically what they want, what their expectations are. And if they don't fit with us, we take a pass. And that was a learning curve for us because that wasn't something that we ever had to do. I'm proud of the fact that we built a reputation and we've never spent money to market or obtain new owners. It's always been through word of mouth, through referral, and through our reputation.
Wow. That's remarkable.
Yeah, it is. And we're very proud of that.
So the landscape has changed. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The landscape has changed with that. A lot of investors have come in, like you said, since COVID, and what they want is they want, here's my property, I want to make money at it. And that is totally a different dynamic. I'm from the South. I'm actually from North Carolina. So I understand what you're talking about doing business. So understanding their expectations and finding out exactly what you have to do to make them happy then is how you're doing that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So let's talk about the guest. How have the guests changed post-COVID? What are we talking about there?
Well, I'm talking about a very egocentric, again, myopic, self-serving view that really didn't exist before. And again, I don't want to paint a picture that it's all guests, but whereas I would estimate not even 0.25% prior to COVID, did we have issues with people being mean to our team members, just blowing up.
Yeah.
Hearing of confrontations, things like that, whereas now it's maybe 2%. So again, 98% of our folks that are guests are phenomenal people. We love hosting them.
Right.
I don't want this to sound like we're getting jaded or aren't enjoying what we do. It's just kind of shocking that there are a number of people that are behaving in the manner they are. And again,
I've seen it in reviews too. They're doing it in reviews. How are you combating that, Steve? What are you doing?
Again, it's killing them with kindness. It's really the only thing we can do.
I wondered. It's the Southern bless your heart.
Exactly. You can't fight or you're not going to convince someone who's just being mean or unkind to all of a sudden be kind. So you take it. I tell them we do some intensive training and have brought some people in that are experts in psychology and in sales and other things so that when you're on the phone or corresponding via text or email or even in person, how to just absorb that, still be kind to them, and present just the facts in a very open and giving, kind way, and then just to move past that.
So staff training, good staff training.
Yeah, and we don't know where these people are coming from, what in their lives have driven them to, again, just be mean people.
Sure.
Who knows?
I can see where you're coming from on that.
Built by property managers for property managers. Streamline is a powerful software that gives managers enterprise-level capabilities to drive more revenue and improve operational efficiency. Migrating to Streamline allows property managers to gain functionality while reducing the need for multiple vendors, improving flow by logging into a single system and reducing redundant technology costs. With Streamline, property managers achieve revenue lifts by leveraging our fully fledged communication center, reservations quoting system, revenue management tools, homeowner acquisition CRM, and powerful direct OTA connections. Streamline also has industry-leading trust accounting and report capabilities to give you clarity in an overall company performance. Learn more about Streamline Vacation Rental Software at streamlinevrs.com.
Let me ask you this. Because you've been very successful, if you could go back and give yourself advice 10 years ago or 20 years ago, when you were beginning, what would you tell yourself?
That's an excellent question.
We can really get discouraged when we start a business or when we've been in business for a while and it's just not going where we want it to. And I think that anybody that's been successful in the way you have, Steve, has gone through those times. What would you say to yourself to encourage yourself, or what advice would you give yourself, knowing what you know now?
The reason I'm struggling for that is, one, I'm a very optimistic person. I don't live with regrets. Things happen for a reason. And I guess what the listeners who would be hearing this would need to know, and we don't have enough time to go into it, is when we went through the crash and my business literally went off the cliff, it was a very traumatic and stressful time for my family. And I learned a lot from that I took from that, almost the phoenix coming out of the ashes. So I was very focused, very committed, and was very attuned to not judge myself or those that worked for me, and understand that we were going to make mistakes, a lot of them, and to simply, when the mistake was made, own it. If an apology was necessary to someone, apologize, but then solve it and move on from there. I guess if I was to give myself one piece of advice, it would probably be to practice a little more of what I preach to my team, in that don't beat myself up. Don't spend hours at night pounding myself for something that I did, when in the same breath I'm telling someone on my team, don't worry about that. I know that decision cost us X amount of money. Who cares? We handled it. You know what you did.
Yeah.
Learn from it. Let's move on. What's next? Let's go. And I think my team appreciates that, but I probably could have been a little
Of course.
less hard on myself, if you will.
No, I understand. One of my very first jobs I had in Fortune 500 company, I deleted some things in a database. And I remember my boss, I'll never forget when he said, it's very similar to what you just said, that you tell to your staff. And I'm apologizing. He said, did anybody die? And I said, well, no. He said, then you're fine. And so that's such good advice for you to give to your staff, to acknowledge the fact that, you lost money. We're going to move on ahead. Let me ask you what the number one technology problem you think we have today, or the best technology we have today, that you can give advice to.
I think it's the same thing, and it's just the access to technology. I think it's a double-edged sword that we're seeing. One, it's great that we have such easy access to technology. We're seeing individual homeowners who are now able to access certain dynamic pricing on platforms like Vrbo and Airbnb, and to have other technological advantages that they now have, that in the past you had to be a property manager and be able to afford all sorts of things. And so I think that's great, because it is important. Again, yes, we're a property management firm, and I encourage people to hire a property management firm, and there's plenty of those.
But of course.
I do think it's infinitely important that this business stays focused as well on the individual owners and renting their own home and managing that. That's where this started. And if we lose that, I think we lose some of our identity and what makes this industry special. So it's great that they have all this access. The flip side and the double-edged sword is that it's allowing a lot of players to get into the game that, as a term we use, are bad players. They just don't care. They're able to buy a property in a neighborhood, launch it, and they don't talk to the neighbors. They don't even know anything about the community they just invested in, and they could care less about the effects that rental might have. And that's, as you're aware, it's those bad players that are producing a lot of anecdotal stories, but also the few factual stories of Airbnb's gone bad and the adverse effects on communities. We're very community focused, and It's important. My team members live here, and we're expanding to Arizona and Florida and the Great Lakes. That's all happening for us in the next 24 months, but it has to happen organically. And we have to build teams in those markets because we care about the communities. We have to. If we don't, that's the death knell of our whole industry. If we get to be uncaring monoliths that just are making money, it's about these communities. And as you know, regulations are a big deal now, and they should be, but we need to engage with these communities and find reasonable standards, reasonable regulations so that we can coexist within these communities, not be confrontational with them.
Exactly. That's very well said. Very well said. I want you to tell me your favorite owner or guest story.
I guess the one that pops into my head is, as I indicated, my wife and I started with a single vacation rental in 2007, and we were very intensively owner involved. We would meet the guests, welcome them to the vacation rental. And so we started to build relationships, and one of our owners ended up coming back, a dozen times. And then
Wow.
probably when we got to a half dozen, she would notify us when she was coming and we'd plan dinner. Then we started doing other things and it just grew. And eventually she now owns a vacation rental with us of her own and has been a Yonder owner.
That's awesome.
But she's one of our best friends. And that
Aw.
relationship has deepened and we've traveled to her home. That to us epitomizes why we got into this and what makes this industry special is that you can build those relationships with your guests because we're all humans. We're all looking for connection. And it's different than a hotel. It's very different. And I love hotels. I'm going to Boston in a few weeks and staying in a hotel. They serve a purpose and they're terrific, but it's a very different experience at a vacation rental. It's someone's home and someone cares enough to welcome you in the doors.
I would love to work for you. I'm sure you sound like a wonderful manager. Seriously, you sound like someone that would be fun to work with. You remind me of Scott Leggett a little bit, who's one of my best friends and brilliant. Anything else you'd like to tell people that are looking to grow their business?
Yeah, again, I think I said it has to start with passion. Next to passion, it goes to people. Now, if you're starting your business and you're just looking to buy a home or some other property and you and your partner or your spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, are going to manage it yourself, that's one thing. But if you're looking to start a business to get into vacation rental property management, you have to hire people, one, that you can empower, two, that you can build trust with, and then three, that reflect your moral and ethical compass, your focus. What are you all about? And if they do that, the rest is just going to happen. I mean, yes, I started this company. I built it. I'm proud of that. I'm not going to minimize what I did, but Yonder now with 35 employees, they make it happen. I don't make it happen. They make it happen. They're the ones that we share on Facebook an amazing 5-star review. I'm not mentioned in there. It's 3 different team members that did some awesome stuff while these folks were staying. So you have to find the people. The people are the key. Absolutely.
Well, I'm really grateful for you coming on the podcast. If someone has a question about building a vacation rental company or something that they've heard about on this podcast and they'd like to reach out to you, would you be willing for them to reach out to you, Steve?
Absolutely. Here in Asheville, myself and a number of other property managers, both individual and property management firms, have started an organization called STR Trust. And our goal is to get everyone who's involved in vacation rentals in Western North Carolina in this group so that we can advocate for our industry and to do that in a positive way within our communities, because tourism is the lifeline and the number one business in Western North Carolina. So let's engage with the community. So yes, whether they're from Florida or Alaska or wherever, I'd be happy to. We already do that.
How would they reach you?
I would say the best way, just because of how busy I am, is to give them my email address. They can send me an email and then we can set up whether it's a Zoom call, a phone call, or even if I'm just answering questions they might have via email. Happy to do so.
What's your email address?
Steve@yondernc.com. So that's STEVE@YONDERNC, like North Carolina.com.
Steve, thank you. And the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and how you've grown your vacation rental business and about the changes that have happened. It's been very interesting to me, and I hope you had a good time.
I did. Thanks, Lynell. My pleasure. Would happy to come back another time. And if we need to do the next podcast together in Rome, I will do whatever is necessary to make that happen. Thank you, Lynell. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
This episode of How We Grow was brought to you by Streamline. To find out more about how Streamline can help grow your vacation rental business, visit streamlinevrs.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.